Johnson here, and this is another conga tutorial on playing congas, two congas here, with a drummer. And this is more of a gospel, funk, soul, rock and roll type of feel that we're talking about. So this isn't a Afro-Latino, but at the same time, there are some ideas that are inspired. This rhythm and these ideas are inspired by, but this is mainly for more of the soul type of genre. So gospel, contemporary gospel, even some traditional, but this is more contemporary. Funk, really funky, more funkier styles, okay? So anyways, getting right into it, in the last episode, or the previous one before this, I mentioned playing with a drummer and using a rhythm. I went over a rhythm that is inspired by the Marvin Gaye rhythm, or this is not completely or traditionally the same as the What's Going On by Marvin Gaye conga pattern that you see, but it's something like that. When we talked about this. Now that's playing a little bit more like it would be played live. So I'm looping it. Whereas on the actual recording, there's more variation, and the whole rhythm, and going right back into it, that kind of almost like a call and response and making it all like a loop. It's a little bit different on the actual recording. Nevertheless, it is quite similar to that rhythm and the same feel, if you will. There are actually some videos you can see of Marvin Gaye playing live with the conga player. I'm not sure if one video I saw, if it was actually Ralph McDonald or not, but it looked like it might have been. Perhaps it wasn't. But there was some conga players that were playing in a rhythm that is a lot like this. So anyways, I used that as a segue or a pivot to speaking about playing in these styles that are a little more funky, have a little more syncopation, okay, with a drummer. So you can play in combination with the drummer's backbeat, what he's playing on the snare, okay, or you can play around the snare. Now, if there's more than one drummer, I prefer to do both, and really using my open notes and sometimes the slaps around what the snare is doing, really between the kick and the snare is doing. So in this video, I decided to talk more about that, but also to add a track that I created with the drum machine and just showing you some ideas so you can see a practical application of such. So if the drums are playing, let's say the snare's on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The boom, boom, bop, boom, bop, bop. Okay? Kind of like what's happening on the drum track in this video, in the beginning of the video that you saw there. Now, I'm playing on what is called the and of 1. So right before that snare, so I'm going 1 and then the snare comes down, okay? So the way to think about this is, if you're new to counting, new to playing with a metronome, new to counting as it in terms of music theory, Western music theory, say the rhythm is in 4/4. So we're counting quarter notes here, and there's 4 beats to the measure, okay? So that means that those 4 beats. Now, let's say the snare is on the kick drum is the first note, 1, and then the snare is on the second beat, another kick drum, and the snare on the 4th beat, keeping it very basic, all right? So go boom, cat, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in between those notes, I have the up note, up beats, or I could say more of the 8th note feel. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm using my fingers to kind of give you an example. So in between those beats, I say 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So I'm going the first beat, let's say it was the kick drum. I'm going 1 and I'm hitting that accent, and my accent for this purpose of this video will be the snare slap tone. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm playing my slap right before the drummer's snare, and I'm playing the open notes in between. 1, 2, So the snare, or the slap, I'm sorry, of the conga and the open tone now are hugging the snare drum. They're playing around it. That's syncopation. That's not the full definition of syncopation, but that is a practical example, that is an oral example of syncopation. One rhythm and then another rhythm playing with it, and they're coming together. It's a crude example, okay? So anyways, I'm going to play this and actually play it and talk through it.
1, 2,
all right,
3,
sorry about
4.
that. That was a bit of a choppy edit, okay? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to play while the drum track is playing, and I'm just going to talk through. Tell it's edit because this thing was in front of me, not behind me. Get that behind me. Anyways, you hear it? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's going to be our backbeat. Drummer's playing that. He's in the pocket, driving the beat. I'm going to add my slap. I'm playing a slap right before, especially the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first snare is on the second beat. Okay? 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. So what am I doing here? I'm playing the first one right before. 3, 4. 1, 3. Okay? I'm setting myself up with a bass note on 1. 1, 1 and 2, 3. Right on that end of 1. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can play around both of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. I can play all around the backbeat with variations. I can add some type of paradiddle, right? Some little rhythm. Da, 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 da. Right, right, left, right, left. Right, right, left, right. Right, right, left, right, left. Right, right, left, right, left. I'm sorry about that. Right? I can play something like that. Da, 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 around the beat. So let's try that. Let's see what that looks like.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, let's see what that looks like. 2, 3, 4. Like that anyways. So you see what's happening there is I was playing that little riff. Right, right, left, left, right. And then I went back into variations of the rhythm that I was playing. At the very base, this is what's happening. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1 and 2, 3. Playing the rhythm, playing with a metronome, whatever exercise, and every now and then counting along will develop the ability of knowing where I'm at. So what's happening with the drum track? 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom, ka, boom, da, boom, ka, boom, ka, boom, ka, boom, ka, boom, boom, ka, boom, boom, ka. Do I even know what I did on the drum track? But the 1 is right here. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. As long as I know where that's at, and I'm developing that, play around the backbeat, play some variations, come right back to the one. And the track ended. Oh well. So anyways, hopefully you've got the idea here of what's happening is that I'm playing around the backbeat, but I'm taking one rhythm or an idea one rhythm, and I'm adding all types of ideas to it. And the basis of it is and perhaps we can look at it like this. If you understand clave in the Afro-Cuban world, that the clave, which means key, is giving the direction to the band. And everyone's playing within the rules of clave. Well, in this style, we can kind of say and look at the drums as that snare being like the clave. In other words, I'm going to play around it or in it, but either way, it's going to give me the cue of what to play. Now, the beautiful thing, though, is that we're all playing within a certain time signature or a certain tempo. Even if those change, we all know that we're playing within a certain tempo and a certain time signature, okay? If I know that, then I can manipulate playing however I want to play, as long as I play within the correct tempo and the correct time signature. Listening to everyone, but also understanding what's happening musically. 1, 2, 3. The drummer could drop out and I could still end up playing the same rhythm. So then he could end up using me as well as almost like a track, as a click track, or as his clave. In other words, he knows where he's going to play or where he's not going to play. All right? So these are just some ideas. Some of them are a little more advanced, but it's taking what's happening in a funkier style, some ideas that you may be able to add to your repertoire and also in your practice routine. Remember, when you practice to a metronome, practice within a structured amount of time. Sit down, say you're going to practice for 10 minutes, decide what you're going to practice. Try to find one, maybe two things, but just keep it there. One thing you're going to practice, turn the metronome on, say I'm going to practice that for the next 5 minutes. It's going to be this one exercise, this one rhythm, nothing else, just that with the metronome. And after doing that, at least 3-4 times a week if you can, if you have the ability. But the idea here is consistency. You will notice that you will develop further along in a more efficient and quicker manner than if you just go in and just shed and play a bunch of things. There's a time for that, and that's good, but we want to be able to take what's in the subconscious to the conscious and be able to manipulate these rhythms, come up with patterns, use them the way that we want to, the same way we do with language when we read a book or study or prepare a speech or in a conversation. We understand our ideas and perspectives, and we think of words that we can use and put them together in sentences to get our point across. Well, music is no different. We practice by reading books, just like reading for speaking. Well, learning rhythms, practicing with a metronome, and understanding time. So, hopefully you like what you saw. You'll hit a like button, subscribe, comment, leave me some feedback, whatever. See you next time. See what that looks like? 2, 3, 4.